If you want to build a Facebook Messenger chatbot, you have many options, everything from drag and drop builders to fully custom code. But if you're already using something like N8N or Make.com, you'll find you need a way to connect it to Meta's messaging platform. And while using third-party service like ManyChat or many of the other ones has its benefits, namely it's a lot quicker to set up, it also means you're bound to another service, you need to pay their subscription fees, and you also are bound by the rules and limitations that they impose on how you can interact with Facebook. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to connect to the Meta platform directly to N8N, Make.com, or any of the other automation tools that support webhooks and sending requests. Here's the end result. So first, we have a Facebook page, and you will need a page in order to use Facebook Messenger. We can send a message, and the bot replies. You can see it follows the conversation, it has the context. So this is a very generic chatbot. It doesn't have any special instructions, but it's still able to communicate with you. The focus of this video is not going to be on how to build an actual agent. It's going to be a very simple prompt to the LLM, but it's going to be a fully functional chat that shows how to connect N8N or Make.com to Meta's platform. To get started, we'll need to create an app on Meta's developer portal. An app is the entity that allows you to send and receive messages on the platform. All the links will be in the description below, so you can reference them and go directly to where you need on the platform. So obviously, you'll need to be registered to Facebook. Then you can go to My Apps here. And you'll create a new app. So we'll go to Create App. And we'll just call it Messenger Chatbot. It's going to be my contact email. And so the question here is, what are we using this for? And we're using it for something other than what's stated here. And then the question is what type of app it is. And this is a business app because it manages business assets like Pages, Messenger, WhatsApp, and so on. So now we've got the summary of this, and we'll create the app. The business portfolio is optional. It's more for organization. Okay, so now we're adding products to our app. Now, we have Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp here, which are all relevant to creating a messaging bot. But for this video, we're doing Facebook Messenger, so that's what I'm selecting here. Okay, a few things here. So the first is the app can be either in development or live mode. While testing, you're going to keep it in development mode. Once you want to push it live, and this is necessary if you want to be able to actually interact with customers, because in development, you can only interact or send messages and receive messages from users that have been specifically marked as developers of the app, which is enough for your testing. But once you want to use it on your website or anywhere else, you need to push it live. In order to push it live, you will need to get it approved. This means Facebook needs to have a look at what your app does, how it's using the user data, and so on. So you'll need to provide some information like that before submitting it to Facebook in order to get it approved. Once that's done, it can go live, and then you can use it in production. In this video, we're just using it in development because that's all we need to get it tested. So the very first thing it's asking for is the callback URL for the webhook. So this is the entry point to our N8N or Make.com automation. The way this works is, if you're not familiar with webhooks, it's essentially a URL that is listening for requests being sent to it. So in our case, that's the entry point to the automation, and we will be listening to webhooks sent by Facebook. Webhooks are going to be sent when different events happen, which in our case really is receiving a message as a page. So each time somebody sends the page a message, Facebook is going to send a request to this URL with some data. We're going to take that data and process it further. The other thing here is the verified token. So the way this works is it's essentially a mechanism to verify that the communication that's happening when Facebook is sending this request to the webhook is actually between our app and, on the other hand, a webhook that we control. So just for the first time, when we set this up, Facebook is going to send a request to our webhook, which is going to be a special request to verify the subscription. It's going to send the token, and it's also going to send a secret of its own. So it's called a challenge. Our job is to make sure that the token is the same that we specified here, so that we know that this is coming from our app. And then we also need to respond with the challenge that Facebook sent. So that way, Facebook knows that this is actually our webhook. So what this does is it prevents both us from putting in somebody else's webhook URL here that would then get spammed with Facebook messages. And at the same time, it also allows us to verify that the message is actually coming from Facebook and it's not somebody else trying to send us Facebook messages. Now, in order to get the callback URL or the webhook, we need to create a new workflow in N8N and create a webhook trigger, which is going to give us that URL. I'm going to call this Facebook Messenger YouTube and add a webhook. Okay, so the only thing with N8N is it's got a test URL and production URL. So while we're testing, we should use the test URL. Later, we should use the production URL. So I'm going to copy this and put it here. And I'm just going to call it FB Messenger YT secret. And we'll do verify and save. Now, it says it couldn't be validated because we haven't tested this. So I'm going to listen for a test event. We're going to see what Facebook actually sends. So if I press this again, it's going to fail. But now we see what Facebook is sending us here. So the important part here is it's sending us a challenge. So this is what we need to return to Facebook. And then at the same time, it's also sending us the token that we have specified. Now, in order to recognize that this is this special type of request, it has hub.mode subscribe. So I'm going to use this. So I'm going to pin this to start with. Now, when we're getting messages from Facebook, in my case, we're only ever getting one get message, and that's the subscribe. So in that case, I'm just going to test that this is a valid subscribe message. So in order for this to be valid, the hub mode needs to be subscribe. And also, so an end condition, we also want to make sure that the verified token is exactly what we specified in Facebook. So that's this string here. Okay. And if that is true, then it means that the subscription request is valid, and we're going to respond to the webhook, and it's just going to be text, and the body we are going to send it is going to be the challenge. So that's what Facebook is expecting us to return back. So we're going to say, yep, the request is okay, and we're returning it the challenge. If we don't return the challenge, the subscribe is not going to succeed because Facebook is going to conclude that this is not our webhook and it shouldn't subscribe. So that's one. And then the other one will be if this is not the case. So if the subscribe failed because the token wasn't the same or the mode was not subscribe, then we're just going to respond with no data, but we're also going to respond with code 403, which means forbidden, which means that it's trying to reach something it shouldn't. Now, if we test this again, I need to unpin this. Now, if we test this, I should be able to verify the webhook from Facebook. Now, it says no. Now, let's see what happened here. Not correctly configured. Let's see. Right. We need to respond using respond to webhook node. Otherwise, it will respond immediately, won't go anywhere further. Okay, so let's test this and... Okay, so now we've got this configured. So that means that Facebook is ready to send us messages to this webhook. And you can see that Facebook guides you through the process here, so it's pretty straightforward. The next part is generating the access tokens. We'll need these in order to send requests to Facebook. So as I said before, you need a Facebook page in order for this to work, because the way it's set up, Messenger API works by sending messages to a page and the page responding back. So I'm going to connect this. And I will use one of my pages here. Now, the next part is going to be subscribing this page to this webhook. So if I add the subscriptions, you can press Learn More here to see what different messages are and what you can be listening to. But for me, it's going to be messages, message edits. That's pretty much all we need for now. So now we're subscribed to this, and we can generate a token. The token is shown only once, so make sure you copy it and save it somewhere, because you're going to need it in N8N. Now, the next step would be to complete the app review. As I mentioned before, you will need this before going live, but we don't need it for testing. However, in order for this to work, in order for me to be able to communicate with this app, what I need to do is add a user, and it has to be somebody who's not the owner of the page, so I can't add myself, because the messages are going to actually be sent to me. So I need to add another Facebook user as a developer of the app. Now, if a user is not a developer, they first have to register as a developer. I'll put the links down in the description on how you can do that. But basically, what I do is open a private window in your browser, log in with this other account, register as a developer, and then in here, I'm going to add a developer. Now, you might see this test users, and it's a little bit confusing, but this one is not for doing what we're doing right now. This is for creating simulated test users, so that's more for programmatic access. Instead, you go into app roles here, and you'll add a person as a developer. Here, I've added another account as a developer. So this account has already been set up as a developer account. If you try to do this and that's not the case, it will not allow you to add the account. So if that happens, you need to go to the link that's going to be in the description and make sure you enroll the developer or the account into the developer program. Now, once I've done this, the person I have just added needs to confirm this request. So here I am in a private window, as I said before. So if I go here and look at the notifications, it's going to have a pending app request. So I have to approve this. Obviously, this is from this other account. We accept it. And once that's done, I can now use this account to communicate with the app. So if I refresh here, you'll see that this is now a developer. Okay, now if I go back into N8N, now keep in mind, we're still in test mode. So the only way for us to receive these webhooks is I need to press test workflow. So it's listening on the test webhook and not the production one. So if I go here, I need to open the page that I have just been added as a developer to. So if I go to this account again, I'll just do a search for the page. That's the page. And now I can send it a message. So if I press here, I can say hello, and let's see what happens. So if I go back to N8N, you'll see nothing's happening. And the reason is I haven't set this up to receive post requests. Now, I mentioned before that the only GET requests you're going to get from Facebook are, at least in this scenario, are for verifying or subscribing to the webhook. But you also need to set it up to receive post requests, because all messages coming in from Facebook are going to be post requests. So that's what I'm going to do here. Allow multiple HTTP methods, because we need to do both get and post. So get and post are here selected by default, and we can listen again. Now I'll go back here and send the message again. And now we see it says the node was executed successfully. We don't have anything in the get, but we do have something in the post. Okay, so let's have a look at what that looks like. So we've got the object is page, because we're sending a message to the page. And then we've got the entry. This is messaging. We've got the sender ID. So this is going to be the user that's sending the message or the page. The recipient is going to be the page. We've got the timestamp, so we know when the message was sent. And then we've got the text. MID is the Facebook's object ID for that message. So we've got the message, hello, but we haven't done anything with it. So here we've got the get branch of this. So in the post branch, so this is where we're adding our agent. I'm just going to select this and select an agent. We don't need a tools agent. This isn't only going to be conversational agent. If you do have tools, obviously you can use that. Now the source is going to be defined below. So the source is going to be our text here. We don't require a specific output format. And now we're just going to have to attach a model to it. So that's the LLM that's actually going to be communicating with the user, and we'll need memory. We don't have any tools. So the model can be anything that you've got set up. I've got OpenAI here, so I'm just going to use that. I already got an account. We're going to use 4.0 mini. And then you do need memory. So the easiest one is window buffer memory. Now, if you were to put this in production, you probably want to use something a little bit more permanent. So you could use Postgres to store the chats permanently. You could use Redis, which is a cache store, if you only needed chats to be sort of transient. But window buffer memory is also going to work for transient chats. So I'm going to use this. Now it needs the session ID. Again, we don't have a connected chat node, so we're going to define this below. And the key is going to be our sender. So the sender is the person sending the message. And that means that the memory for this particular chat, so that means all the messages that go back and forth, are going to be associated with this user. That also means that if the user comes back, let's say in an hour or 2 hours or a day, and sends another message, we still have the memory of the previous chat with them. And then finally, we need to define the window length. So this is basically how many messages we're remembering. I think 5 is quite short, so I'll just set this to 50. That should be enough. Now in here, one thing we also need is a system prompt. It's going to be a system message. I'm just saying, you're a helpful assistant. When starting a chat, always first say hello. I'm not entirely sure why it's giving me this issue. Let's test this and see where we go. So I'm going to test this again. Now, I wasn't sure why it was giving me the error, but it turns out there was something wrong here where I think I put the expression in source for prompt, which is incorrect. So this needs to be just one of the predefined values. So the source for the prompt needs to be defined below, not an expression. It's going to be defined below, and then the text is going to be the expression, and that's going to be our message text. Now, once the agent processes the message, we need to send that message back to Facebook. So the way we'll do this is, first, we're going to respond to webhook because we need to let it know that everything's all right. So no data, response code is going to be 200. And just call it send OK to Facebook. And then we're going to send our HTTP request, which is going to be a post. For the URL, we need the URL of the Graph API from Facebook. So that's this. Then we need the version of the API. So right now that's 22.0. And then you need the ID of the user you're sending this to. Now, if you remember when Facebook sent us a request to our webhook, there was the sender and the recipient. And sender is the user that's sending the message. Recipient is essentially us. And the ID of that is what we need to use here. And then the final part is messages. So that's the endpoint that we're sending it to. Now, for the authentication, we select none because Facebook is expecting the token in query parameters. So we're going to use query parameters. We're going to use fields below. It's going to be access token. And this needs to be the token that you remember from before that you generated on the app. So I paste in my token, and we also need to send the body. Now for the body, we're sending JSON, and it's easiest to just specify JSON as an object. So for now, I'm just going to put an empty object here, and then let's test this and try to get that message to actually come through. So if I test the workflow, so I'm going to type in another hi there. So that's been sent. And we can see that this path has been executed. So we got the message. So as I said, the sender ID is the user. The recipient is the ID that we're using in that URL when sending the message. The AI agent processes this, and it outputs, hello, how can I assist you today? It should always say, hello, I'm a helpful bot, but it obviously didn't really listen to us this time. We need to improve that prompt. We send OK to Facebook, but then we also need to send that request. So here we've got the output, which is what we need to send in the body of the message. Now, if you read the Facebook documentation for the API, and I'll post a link in the description below, you'll see what this message should look like, or what the body should look like. So this is the format. First, we need the ID, and the ID was in our webhook. So the ID is the sender ID. So we're going to put that in here. And then for the response, we're going to use the output of the agent. So this is the output. However, I found that this usually breaks because there are characters in there, they're not valid JSON. So what we're going to do is use JSON.stringify. And this way, we're going to get a string of the JSON, and that's what Facebook is actually expecting. So we've got this, and if we test this again, we get a response back, hello, how can I assist you today? So this is now the full path of the workflow. Now, as I said, because this is still in test mode, it's not active, we need to press test workflow every time we want to receive a message. But once you make it live, you just need to change the callback URL of the webhook in Facebook in order for this to just work continuously. So if I press this again, now let's try to see if memory is working correctly, if it can reference things from the conversation. So if I ask, what are some of the best ice cream flavors? It gives me a response. So these are its top. And if I say, okay, and which one do you recommend the most? So I'm referring back to this conversation. So if the memory is not working, this is not going to work because it won't have any context. If the memory is working, it should give me one of the flavors. Oh, of course, we need to press test again. Test workflow. So it's running this again. And it says, I recommend trying cookies and cream, blah, 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 which means that the memory is working. And this really is all you need to connect Meta or Facebook Messenger to your N8N workflow. You've seen in the app configuration, you can also connect Instagram and WhatsApp, but the process for sending the messages and receiving messages is going to be slightly different. So in order for this to be unified, you'll need to do a few more things and also set up each one of them separately. I'll do that in a different video if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments below.